So, welcome. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. And I want to dive into a very important topic that faces our nation and many other countries worldwide. And that is the fact that we really need to discover the hero inside of us because there's so many challenges in life, and we don't necessarily have the right tools and resources to handle them with devastating consequences. And I'm really excited to be talking to these amazing ladies. One of them is hiding because she is a little bit under the weather and didn't want to show her face. So that's Sandra over there, and Robin and Cindy. And you are the founders of an incredible organization that's going to impact so many young people and our culture today. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Bart.
Thank you for having us.
So what you're doing is very important, and partly because our children, the young, and even the older teenagers, and even perhaps the young adults, are sometimes very confused in society. There are a lot of reasons for that, but mainly because they don't have the understanding, the awareness, and perhaps the mentorship. You guys are creating something incredibly unique, a very special way for our teens and our adults and our younger kids to tap into their power. So, Robin, I want to ask you first, what is this brilliant concept that you guys have come up with?
Our program is a program that is a teen and human empowerment movement. We're starting with our teens because of the crisis that is presenting to us as human beings right now in terms of the increase in bullying associated with electronic media that is so present in all of our teens' lives and the resulting increase in suicide in our teens, especially between the ages of 10 and 14. And we felt compelled to do something about this. When we looked, we saw that most of the programs out there are programs by well-meaning adults and professionals who are attempting to give teens the tools that they need for successful living. And I know with my history as a therapist that as adolescents, what an adult says really doesn't have as much meaning or influence as what another teen, especially a friend, has to say.
I realized how smart I am, and it didn't work with my three kids. And one day I actually realized, what? They're actually teaching me. So I want to ask Cindy something right now, because, you and I were talking beforehand, and you actually gave a very insightful and moving talk some time ago. And this is, I understand, how you guys met. What was that talk about? And give us a little bit of perspective, because Robin was telling us the problem, but I think most people are unaware of what that problem really is. And so give us your perspective, because you have a story about that.
I do, unfortunately. And it's a story that is all too familiar. And it's a story that began when I learned about a 12-year-old girl by the name of Morgan. And she was a bright, fun-loving, athletic. She was getting straight A's. She was running cross country. She qualified for state. She had so many things going well for her at that point. But she also had something that was hiding inside of her, and she wasn't allowing anyone to know, but she was suffering from depression and anxiety. But she put on this facade, which so many people, we teach our kids to be strong, and, we tell our children don't cry and get over it. And we say some of those things. And unfortunately, that builds them up to thinking that they can't share openly their emotions. And so Morgan started to experience some bullying taking place on social media, and she's being called names. And unfortunately, that led to her making an attempt at suicide. She was brought to a facility and had some wonderful doctors that cared for her for about a week or 9 days. But unfortunately, after that took place, she came back home and was supposed to go right back into school. And unfortunately, the bullying ensued even greater, and kids were saying things as awful as finish the job and do it right, hang yourself. And unfortunately, that's what she ended up doing. She took her own life. And we're hearing these stories over and over. In the media, you hear about it constantly. Are we frozen? I'm sorry. I will go on just to say that the statistics are
Themselves.
alarming. There we go. Oh, I couldn't
Okay.
hear you there, Bart. Sorry.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we have some. I have a new internet service here, and they're not as great. And I just, for the first time, we just lost it for a second. So what I was saying to Robin, or asking Robin, we were talking beforehand. What part of the challenge is, and the kids being, not only impulsive, but also just not having the awareness that something can be done. Talk to us about that, Robin.
Our society right now is so fast paced. All of us live with phones and iPads and computers and technology at our fingertips 24/7. That technology is a wonderful gift and a treasure. Nobody is saying eliminate the technology, but rather what we're saying is we're using that technology right now in a way that separates us, and especially for our youth. That technology, because it is on 24/7, it is relentless. Pairing that with the disenfranchisement that all adolescents feel, and the fact that there is no shutdown time, as well as the fact that adolescents can't see futures in the same way adults do. So events that occur with cyberbullying, as it is really called, are anonymous, and they have fireworks type of impact. It starts as a match that is lit, and then it turns into an explosion. And that explosion can occur in a matter of hours, so that a child or an adolescent can leave school at 3 o'clock on one day and have to deal with the trauma of these events going home all the way to sleeplessness at night, and then go back to school the next day and their whole world is rocked. Their whole world is changed. So they can go in a matter of hours from being an individual who has community to an individual who has no community.
And Cindy, you were telling me earlier too that what also happens is that they feel so much shame, and this shame is so intense that they get really impulsive, but they don't appreciate the totality of what they're doing.
That is so true.
If they had a second chance afterwards, they probably realize, well, actually, I don't want this. Really?
Yeah. The shame is so strong, and part of that is because of this technology. Things are video recorded, and they're publicly known. Their failures are not just things that are whispers in the hallways. Their failures are right there in video or in audio, and so the implications of someone making a mistake, because we all have been there, right? We've all made those terrible mistakes. We've done something that we regret. But when it is caught on video, or it's caught in a fire that goes out on social media, and everyone starts to tag on to that and says, "Oh yeah, that's that person did this," and it causes that shame to really bubble up to a level that is uncontrollable.
I'd like to ask you, Cindy, a question, and then I want to jump back to Robin. And Sandra, you're more than welcome to jump in anytime. I know you're not feeling well, but you're part of an awesome team of heroes, so I knew that you didn't want to be left out for today. But my question, and Robin in a second, after I talk to Cindy, is how is it that you interact, and how is it that you create the whole concept? But for Cindy right now, And, as a parent, we also have roles. So what has the role been, if you will, of parents today to be, partly responsible for this
Oh,
situation? I mean,
absolutely.
talking to the parents right now, I mean, where is their responsibility? What is happening or not happening that's, putting more fire, if you will, to the situation?
Well, and I can speak from my own perspective, honestly, because I have two teenage daughters right now. So the biggest thing for me is that we've kind of created this society of overachievers. So we want our kids to go to the best schools. We want them to, have all the things that we didn't have as children. And I think that that's been kind of a cultural thing that's taken place in the early 2000s and has been something that's been growing. And there's a lot of status and things like that that are taking place in high schools. When I was growing up, I mean, there were brands that you wanted to wear, but I mean, there's just a culture now. And I think as parents, what we need to realize is that we need to step back and allow our kids to fail. That's how they learn. We never want them to make a mistake. And we're always, pushing them to do, everything the correct way. And really, there was a beautiful video that I watched, and it's by the CEO of Spanx. Her name is Sarah Blakely, and she talks about how her father parented her in a totally different way. And they'd sit down at the dinner table, and instead of talking about what did you do great today, he'd ask them to say, what did you fail at? And then he'd high five them and say, good job, because the only failure really is not trying. That's what we need to teach our kids, is that it's just not trying. It's just the outcomes don't matter.
And I just want to add to that my own perspective on that before we go to Robin. Is I think most parents have displaced themselves from what's really going on with their
Oh,
children in all
absolutely.
areas, not only the areas where they're struggling or challenged, but also their successes, also their emotions, also their feelings, also their fears, and all these things. And it's almost like, oh, yeah, well, let me displace the education of my child to the schools and television and their peers rather than being actively involved with your own children. And quite honestly, bringing them to all these sports and games and stuff isn't really being involved with your child. It's just another hidden way to displace your responsibility, your role in the education, of your own children. And I think, honestly, as you said, if parents had a more active role in parenting and taking care of the kids and guiding their children, as well as tapping into better resources that are currently absolutely available, including the ones that you guys are creating to really help and support our children. Because you know what? It's not their fault that they were put on this earth. It was the parents' fault. And so we really need to own that. So Robin, tell me, what is the uniqueness and the beauty and the magic of the A-list, the heroes, and the round table?
Well, first of all, the magnificence, I think, of the round is that nobody is greater than the other person. Each person that sits at the round is an integral and essential team member. And each person that sits in the round develops the energy of the hero. Right from the beginning, we begin to teach our kids that in crisis, they need to find the treasures because nobody is going to go through life without having crisis. If they do, they're sleeping through life.
But you're
So
basing this on the round of the night of the
I
King
am,
Arthur's night round of the night table, whatever it's called.
yes, we are basing it on the concept of Camelot
Yeah.
and the Knights of the Round. And the legend is a beautiful legend that many of us grew up with also, and it touched us. And the reason it touched us, I believe, is because each of us wants to be a hero.
Right.
Each of us wants to be a person who can contribute and have meaning and do good. There are very few among us, only the very, very ill, that don't have those hopes and dreams and aspirations. And we live in such a disenfranchised, disconnected world frequently that has become smaller and smaller and smaller. So even though we're disconnected, we are connected in a different kind of way to almost anonymous individuals.
But tell me about the 12 knights, the heroes.
The 12 knights, King Arthur, along with his magician Merlin, created these 12 knights that were supposedly given by the divine. And each of these energies came in as essential energies of what that knight had within him or her to be the new human being. And so some of the energies or the knights, and we call them our A-list heroes, are courage, nobility, service, veracity, generous giving,
honor, grace, gratitude.
So I looked very carefully at what Arthur was looking at, and I said, yes, this is the energy that Arthur was trying to create. And from there, we created the round. And I wanted it to be a round because in that round, you can't just do it alone. Okay? And in that round, it's a perfect scenario for looking to the left and greeting a hero, looking to the right and greeting a hero. And in our games, there's somebody sitting at the other side of the table that's also a hero. And that hero is who those three aspire towards.
Right. So Cindy, tell me how the games work.
Well, Robin has done a beautiful job in putting them together, and there's a flow to those games. So they kind of once you get past a certain point, you move on to a next level. And the flow really starts with an intro game and introduces them into thinking about the possibilities of their future and what are the treasures that they hold. And we start with a kind of a simplistic way of having them, pick some things, some symbols, some items that really matter to you. So it could be, to some child, it could be my soccer ball. It could be a rock that I found in a river one time when I was out in nature. It could be a pin that my grandmother gave me as a child. I mean, it could be anything that is important to them. But the idea is that you put those treasures in your treasure box and you hold them dear to you and you think about them on a daily basis, 7 days in a row. And then as you're going through those treasures, you're tying those to and you're tethering those to the dreams of your future. Some of the other games really take a step where the teen steps into the shoes of one of our 12 heroes. And we do that through these very transformational scenarios. So we've really created a list of themes that teens are dealing with on a daily basis. And they range the gamut from being bullied to pressures of their parents to sexuality to date rape, you name the themes. There's a gigantic amount of impact on all teens these days.
Right.
But then we take them through short little scenarios where they put themselves in a hero's shoes and how would they respond to that situation. And I think that role playing part of it is very important because even if they haven't experienced that today, down the road they may. And having that opportunity to role play that in their past can actually help them deal with it in the future.
It's actually quite brilliant, and particularly because, as you both are alluding to, and I know Sandra is as well, she's quiet back there, is that, it's this teen leadership. It's helping people, kids become more empowered and conditioning that in through different scenarios, different role playing, and then also getting the feedback from the people around you to realize, yes, it's working or it's not working. And then when it's not working, it's still okay because you're still learning and you're in a very supportive group. And so there's so many beautiful elements in this absolute magical game that you guys are creating that, can only have very deep and fundamental impact on the growth of the kids. But also what you said, Cindy, is really important because, the reason kids these days do very well on those video games is because they've done it so many times and they know what to expect. And when you come in crazy life situations that are totally new to you and foreign to you, then sometimes you get paralyzed. But if you practice them in advance in a game form, which makes it very easily accessible, it's not how should I put it?
It's not
scary.
intimidating.
It's not intimidating,
right.
and so you can play. And so, one of the great phrases that I've learned over the years is how you play games is also how you play life. And so if you can play a game very well, then it's exciting. Then you can play the game of life even better. So my final question about the A-List Hero is, you're launching it next month in New Zealand. And why is that? Whoever wants to jump in.
Go ahead, Robin. You start.
Well, first of all, when we met just about a year ago, the experience that we had in Southern California was an experience that moved us deeply. And in that experience, we were able to connect with other social entrepreneurs who changed each of us and all of us and continue to change us. The entrepreneurs that we met in Southern California were mostly from this country. And we wanted to just have fun with meeting social entrepreneurs that were coming from all different places. And when we heard about New Zealand, first of all three of us are Harry Potter fans. So going into the landscape there was something that was very intriguing and exciting to us. And built into the program is also a beautiful giving and ceremony working with water and working with indigenous people in New Zealand, which was very appealing to us. But the big appeal was that we were going to meet an expanded tribe of social entrepreneurs that were global, who we could connect with and who we could change and who we could allow to change us.
Nice. That's beautiful. Very, very well put. And you know what? You're definitely going to find that. And for any of the listeners listening in, this is a phenomenal trip put together by Sprite Loriana Global, one of the founders of the Water Bearers. Her goal, her outcome is to find 100 women who will each, I think, get 100 water filters throughout the world. And she's well on her way to achieve that. Water being one of the key problems, or lack of water, lack of pure water is one of the key problems in so many countries of the world, causing all sorts of diseases and deaths. And so I've been very fortunate to be part of that process as well, going to a trip to Ecuador, and also combined with Robert Evans from Live Your List Productions, also a messenger service helping people deliver their message throughout the world. And so New Zealand is a very exciting trip with 30 social entrepreneurs, or transformational leaders, or thought leaders, as I like to put them, who really are out there to serve so many others at the highest level. And we will be providing all sorts of presentations and lectures and workshops to the people of the southern island in New Zealand, which is very exciting because it really is all about delivering ideas and thoughts and opportunities to people that are not aware of them. It's all about what we don't know that we don't know that's going to change your life. And that's precisely the reason for this platform as well, Prescription for Your Transformation, which is why I'm so excited to be connected with you guys, because I've also been able to connect you with other people that can totally support you as well. And so I'd like to ask Cindy and then Sandra, if she's up to it, between any of her coughing spells. What's your Cindy? What's your personal outcome or desire or wish for experience going to New Zealand?
Well, so for me, Bart, I began a transformational journey myself about over a year ago. And it started with me taking a leap of faith. I call it my leap of faith journey, leaving the corporate world and doing something that I believed was going to make an impact. And so, as I started that journey and uh, continue that journey, that's really what I'm looking for the most, is just peeling back the layers that I've put on myself over the years and finding my true direction, my true passion that I have always had within me since I was a child. And, being able to share that a journey with everyone that's on the trip, as well as be able to learn so much from them. So that's what I'm really looking forward to the most.
Very nice. And I know you'll have that. Sandra, what's your hope and desire for your trip?
Oh man, thank you for doing this, Bart. I appreciate you putting this together for us. It's the we started out as three moms on a mission. That was kind of like cool how we just kind of co-created this. And I went into the last event with such trust that, the right experiences would expose themselves, and I'd just kind of go with the flow, and it worked for me. So this time is going to be pretty similar. Is I'm kind of at this point in my life where I'm learning a lot about me, and so I'm going to go with the thought of really just saying yes to everything that can possibly put a
Nice.
smile on my face, or help out the world in a better way and leave it better than I went there. So I'm pretty excited of who I'm going to meet there, and the experiences of what that'll be.
Well, I
So,
certainly look forward to connecting with you and helping you and supporting you in achieving that. And Robin, what's your personal outcome or desire or wish for your trip in New Zealand?
I am so looking forward to my own personal growth and change. I am so looking forward to launching our A-List Hero program in a country which is the last country on earth that made its appearance on this planet. So it's the first country that's making its appearance for A-List Heroes. And being in a group of social entrepreneurs, thought leaders, global change makers is something that is so exhilarating for me, because up until last year, I had always kept my personal growth separate from my professional growth. And then I realized that was a ridiculous contrivance, a ridiculous line of demarcation, so to speak, that I had. And I now realize that when I allow all of myself to work with all of these other individuals and play with all of these other individuals and just be who we are, magic happens. And so I'm looking forward to the magic of New Zealand.
Very, very nice. And the magic, oftentimes happens in the most challenging moments. And that certainly happened to me in Ecuador, or all of us in Ecuador, where we really get to experience who we really are in difficult moments. And I think that's really a testament to our desire to grow, because it's particularly in those moments that we learn, who we can really become. And we can become so much more than who we really are. And it's not playing small, it's always playing big, it's always going to the next level. And what was important for me, going on my last trip to Ecuador, it actually began, the change, the shift, the transformation, significantly changed even before the trip, when I realized that I was going there to tap into the collective wisdom of others and create a space of general collaboration, but also to celebrate my faults and my weaknesses, understanding that that was just a signal that there was something that I could actually work on and then become more of. And it was very exciting for me, because it allowed me also to be aware of how I get to show up in these situations and respond to other people. And that's where the real growth is. Because the truth is that we're all on this journey. We all have our baggage. We all have our fears. And we all desire divine happiness, all of us, even those, poor kids. And that's all they want. They want that divine happiness. But the only way to get there is to resolve whatever makes you unhappy. And so I really want to thank all three of you for sure. I'm very excited to be connecting with you in New Zealand. We leave in about 10 days. And doing some magic things and doing some great humanitarian work with the Waitahara tribe, bringing them water solutions. And again, for people listening in, these are very simple, water solutions. These are filters that only cost $50 that can take care of 100 people for at least 10 years. And, New Zealand, as progressive as it is, the indigenous tribes sometimes lack these essentials that we all take for granted. So to wrap it up, I'm going to go in reverse order with Sandra. Any last words that you want to share?
I appreciate being on this journey with you, and thanks for having us on. Truly
Cindy?
A blessing.
You're welcome. Cindy?
Well, I'm looking straight ahead at my bulletin board and it just popped in. I've got to say it, but trust and allow and don't ask how.
Robin?
Aspire, connect, achieve, be
Nice.
the A-list hero.
And my last words, find that hero inside of you. Tap into the beautiful work that the A-list hero is doing with this beautiful women, because you know what? We all have those heroes inside of us. They're not playing enough outside of us, and it's time that they did. So I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation. Real people, real conversations, real success, tapping into your authentic genius, your brain intelligence, your body intelligence, as well as your energy intelligence. You desire a great life, and there is that possibility that you all can have that. So thank you, and I will be back tomorrow.
Thank you, Bart.